Hi everybody. Welcome to Unit 7, Lesson 6, Volume of Cones, okay? So remember, volume is like how much something can contain, all right? So like, think of a snow cone, right? If we flip that upside down, this one that I'm showing right here, right? You can think how much snow cone can you have in there? That would be the volume, all right? So just a couple vocab words that we need to know and understand. We would consider this part right where the base of the cone meets the side. That would be called the edge. The height is measured from the apex, which that is the vertice across from the base. And the height is measured from the apex down to the base, but it's a perpendicular line. So sometimes in your lessons you're going to see like slanted cones. You would go from the apex to the ground, all right, if you can think of like the cone sitting on the ground. But hopefully that'll make more sense once you see that in your lesson, okay? So the formula that we have for the volume of a cone is 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. Okay, so R standing for radius, H standing for height, and for pi we're going to estimate it at 3.14. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into our examples. Number 1, and now looking at this on the screen it's a little hard to see, but this has a height of 9 and then a radius of 5. Okay, so height of 9 centimeters and the radius of 5 centimeters. Okay, and for this problem we're going to round to the nearest tenth. And then from this point we're just going to go ahead and plug straight into our formula. So we've got the volume is equal to 1/3 times pi, remember we're going to use 3.14, times our radius squared times our height, which is 9. And I'm using parentheses to signify multiplication, right? When they're all smushed together like that, that also means multiplication. But once you start writing numbers in there, it's hard to have them just smushed together. So from this point, we can go ahead and multiply. Now, we could multiply straight across. We do need to solve this exponent first, right, because of the order of operations. So we can go ahead and do that. We'll say 1/3 times 3.14 times, and then the 5 squared is 25, and then times 9. Now one thing I notice is that there's a 1/3 and a 9. 1/3 times 9 is 3, right? And because of the commutative property of multiplication, I can rearrange these. I can multiply them in whatever order I want. So 1/3 times 9 is 3. Then I have times 3.14 times 25 times, oops, I already did the 9, okay? See, that's the benefit of writing everything down, is then you can catch mistakes like that. So, at this point, we can use a calculator if you want. You could also recognize that 3 times 25 is 75. So really we have 75 times 3.14. And that's where I'm going to bring in my calculator. It's a Monday for me right now, and I don't feel like figuring that out. So we've got 75 times 3.14 gives us 235.5. 235.5. Now, when it comes to volume, your units are going to be cubed, okay? Because they have like a length, a width, and a height, right? Those are 3 different aspects. And so they're always cubed. That's a 3-dimensional attribute. So in this case, the final answer, volume, would be equal to, what did I say, 235.5, and they were centimeters cubed. That would be your final answer. Okay? Let's try 2 more. The next 2 are word problems. All right? So we got to make sure that we're careful with what we're given. So number 2 says, what is the volume in cubic inches of a cone with a diameter of 6 inches and a height of 7 inches? Round to the nearest hundredth. So the information that I'm given in the problem, first off, I'm given the diameter of 6 inches. But that's not what I need, right? Now, we do have a height of 7 inches, so that's helpful. But notice in our formula, 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. So I need the height, but I was given the diameter. Well, remember, a radius is half of the diameter. So what's half of 6? 3. So if my diameter is 6, that means my radius is 3, and so really I don't need that information anymore. Okay? And then I can go ahead and plug into my formula. So I have it written up here. We've got 1/3 times, and then I'm going to use 3.14 for pi, and then times the radius, which was 3, so we've got 3 squared times the height. So I plugged everything in. First step is get rid of that exponent. Okay, so now I have 1/3 times 3.14 times 9 times 7. Well, just like that problem before, this just happens to be how it worked out. This isn't going to happen every time, but I do notice that I have 1/3 and a 9. 1/3 times 9 is 3. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in, and then times 7. Well, I know what 3 times 7 is. That's 21. So I have 21 times 3.14. So let's pull that up on the calculator. 21 times 3.14. That gives me 65.94. And in my directions it said round to the nearest hundredth. Well, it is already at the nearest hundredths place. So in this case, my volume would be 65.94 hundredths. And remember, it said to write it in cubic inches, right? So that would be inches cubed, or inches to the 3rd power. Okay? All right, last problem for today, number 3. This is number 4 from your quick check. A sandcastle mold is in the shape of a cone with a diameter of 4 meters and a height of 6 meters. What volume of sand is needed to fill the mold? Okay, so we need that exact same formula that we've had. We need the volume is equal to 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. So let's see, once again, we're given the diameter, so we have to be careful. If we're given the diameter of 4 meters, that means my radius is 2 meters, and that's what we need for our formula. Okay? And then we're also given height of 6 meters. All right? And then we can go ahead and just plug in. We've got 1/3 times 3.14 for pi times our radius, which in this case is 2, and that's squared, times our height, which is 6. So once again, I'm going to first apply my exponent. So I have 1/3 times 3.14 times, and then 2 squared is equal to 4 times 6. Well, once again, we happen to have a number that goes well with a 3. 1/3 of 6, or 1/3 times 6, is 2. So I'm going to say 2 times 3.14 times 4. Well, 2 times 4 is 8. So we have 8 times 3.14. And again, this is where I'm going to pull out my calculator. We could solve it with the traditional algorithm, but I'm not going to today. 8 times 3.14 gives me 25 and 12 hundredths. Okay, so I'm going to consider that good. I forget if on your quick check if it asks to round to the nearest hundredths or not. It might say to round to the nearest whole number. right? In that case, it would be 25. But the volume of this mold is 25 and 12 hundredths meters cubed. Don't forget your unit, okay? All right, I hope that helps to see some of these problems written out. But of course, if you need more support, just let me know.